Hey guys, and welcome to another Polymer clay tutorial. Today we are going to create this Viking battle scene from the mobile game Vikings War of Clans. Welcome to the second video for this week. Well, normally I upload once a week, but after I got in touch with the people behind Vikings, they agreed to sponsor this video, and I am happy to create this crazy Vikings fighting scenery. And I think it is the longest tutorial, maybe also the most details, but this is for sure. I could use a lot of old clay right at the beginning for the stand. The video is divided into 3 sections. The first one would be I show how I created the stand, and after that we take care of the 2 fighting Vikings. For those of you who don't know the game yet, Vikings War of Clans is an amazing free-to-play massive multiplayer strategy game with more than 20 million players that takes place in the grim northern lands, where Viking warlords fight over every piece of precious territory. Download the game using my links below in the description, and it is available for iOS and also Android, so for almost every mobile device out there. Later I will tell you some more details about the game, but for now let's focus on the creation on the stand. And you have already seen that I mixed this grey color for the rock, for the stone look of the stand, and I tried not to mix it that strong that still some of the patterns of the mixing colors could be seen, and it really looks quite natural for a stone. Yeah, and now there will be a second layer with a bit mud and also green, which would be grass of course, and a little bit of gray. And after mixing that, these colors, we have a very thin layer of, well, this color. And this would be the base layer for the plants, for the grass we are placing afterwards. And also make sure to place it around the stand. When I was right at this point, I didn't knew and I hadn't that much confidence that this stand would look great after finishing, but somehow I went on and I created this stand, and I'm really happy about that. Well, now we are mixing the green for the grass and put in a little bit of ochre that the green isn't too strong, because otherwise it doesn't really look realistic. Placing the thin layer of green onto the stand, onto the rock, and of course also around the stand we are covering the floor, the ground. Yeah, I just told you that Vikings War of Clans is played by over 20 million people, and that was fascinating for me, that in the loading screen of the game you can actually see how many people are playing. And this one was growing the number, and I thought this would be just interesting. Haven't seen that before. So, taking my scalpel and creating the texture of the grass on the ground. This was a lot of work. This is why I speed up the video, and now we can place some tiny details in the front area. These are some nice stones and even tinier stones. And while decorating the landscape with stones, I thought about even mixing in some real materials like real stones and even sand for the ground. and I didn't know where to get sand. And then I remembered that our older son was playing in the sandbox a lot lately at my parents-in-law's. And look at that, this was a real good place to find sand. So now I decided to go with some further decorations and details which fit the Viking setting. This is a shield and also 2 spears sticking in the ground and the flag. So we are placing the metal pieces. This is just silver clay and I mixed in some black in order to get it more, like, well, it's an ancient look. Can't describe why I mixed in some black. I think this looks nicer than a shiny silver for the Vikings. And now adding very, very tiny pieces of green clay. These are grass pieces. And we are ready to go into the oven. Freshly baked Vikings stand. And also 2 spears we are sticking into the ground. And after that, this is the cross. Later I will add some ragged fabric to it, that it looks like an older flag, and I even made it a bit longer. And well, now we can remove it from the plate. And now we will focus on the characters we are creating, and I'm going into the game. And look at that, we can go to the barracks, and I chosen. I took this one, the Slayer, because he was looking so angry, and I liked that he had 2 swords. The second character we are creating is Hawk. He is an archery guy, and look at the mask. I mean, really, look at that mask. Now, let's start creating the Slayer first. This will be the one Viking which is jumping or falling, I'm not sure about that. And I started with a skeleton, and this is just regular wire, because this one is thinner than my regular aluminum wire. And I started coating with the skin color and just modeling and creating some details, the muzzles. And after that we can put in some brown clay. And also you want to notice that I didn't mix it too strong, so there's still some kind of a pattern inside, and it looks like natural leather. I think so. Yeah, so the Vikings creators spent a lot of love to all the details, and they were inspired by the real-time PC strategy games of the 90s we all played, well, at least me. It was the time where I had no PC and I had to play at my parents' computer. And it was Age of Empires, Stronghold, and I think also the very first Warcraft. And well, the Vikings creators made a super polished mobile game, and then that one I think really stands out, not only because of the 3D graphics and the smooth gameplay, but because of the really great artwork. When you scroll through all the troops, for example, you see what I mean. And I tried to get this into my creation as well. And although my scale is smaller than, let's say, my Fortnite creations, the Fortnite skins, I wanted to include as many details as possible. So, this is also another leather piece and some fur. How to create fur with clay. I went this way and I think it really looks nice. Just adding last details, and we can place this closing piece around his belly and some red stripes. This is some kind of a belt, a war belt buckle. Yeah, although I created these tiny pieces with silver clay, I decided to paint it with acrylic silver. It's an acrylic silver pen afterwards, after oven hardening, because this one is way more glossy and shiny. And in the final version, just adding some jewelry. In the final version you see what I mean. Now the two shoulder patches, and there's a tiny outline with golden clay. The same is also for the golden color of the clay. I used the golden pen afterwards as well, because this one gives the creation a bit more shiny golden effect, which you just don't get with the clay. Maybe I should have gone with transparent polish. Now creating the hands, and this is a really great technique to create very tiny hands, and I think this one looks really realistic. About the game, Vikings has just gone through another massive update. Finally adding new shamans, and I even thought about creating one, but then I saw these two guys, the Slayer and also the Hawk, and I fell in love with these two guys. And they added kingdoms. I think this is the best time to join the game, especially with the new update. Creating the face was so difficult. Normally I don't have to start all over again, but with this head I had to start again, because the first version just looked so ugly. I tried to include the eyes, and this was the big mistake, because when creating in such a small scale and you don't nail it when creating the eyes, your character just looks weird and ugly. But not this nice guy. Now we are working on Hawk, and the base layer for this bad boy is silver, with just a little bit of, what did I say? Silver? I meant gold, with a little bit of silver inside. And after creating the base layer, we can work on the boots, which are black. Except for the toe part. So we put in some dark silver clay as well. I'm not 100% sure if all the details are in the right position, because I only had this great artwork of the Hawk character, and most of the time I made up the armor parts and the closing details where you couldn't see them from the artwork, but this worked out pretty well, I think. Yeah, there's even some fur on the knees, right under the knee protection, and I used just some black clay for that with a silver outline, and the knee protection is ready for skating. Ready for war. Now some black and red gives us this nice piece of cloth for Hawk. And now we work also on the belt buckle he is wearing with a silver outline, and we will also add a little bit of golden clay. And this is the silver armor I just added. You didn't see that one. Another red belt on top. And even though I painted with the acrylic golden pen afterwards, after oven hardening, I decided to include some very thin lines of golden clay as well. Another thin line of silver clay for the shoulder patches And now this is the most difficult part. Let's work on the head of Hawk with 2 big dark holes. And this one reminded me of a mask from World War II, for example. Can't tell you why. Now the horns are a bit crooked, and the hole in the mask is for his hair, for his massive hair from his beard, his Viking beard. Now we are also creating the hands with the same technique we used before. And in this hand goes the bow. And now we just create the bag for all the arrows. I'm sure there's a special word for that, but I call it arrow bag. And it goes onto the bag. Now I'm curious, now I'm looking up the word. Just give me a second. Bow quiver. Okay, so this is the bow quiver, which is covered by another piece of fur. And we're adding some more of silver clay, just some more details to the arm protection. And well, now we can place this guy onto the plate. And I'm using this tiny needle for the chainmail he's wearing. And we are ready to go into the oven. But we forgot to create the weapons. And I start with the 2 swords of the Slayer. There's a regular sword, the left one, and the right one is a bit more, was a bit more difficult to create, with a bit more details. The bow, of course, way more detailed than the 2 swords. I will add a line after oven hardening and just created some arrows to attach to the creation. This is the last working step. Oh no, forgot the feathers for the arrows. Also the other side as well, which we will glue together after oven hardening. So this is the banner of the flag on the stand. And I try to cut it as if it is really old and ragged. And I really liked that one, the look. And that's it for the clay part. We are ready to go into the oven. Freshly baked Slayer and freshly baked weapons. And we start assembling and painting and gluing. And this is the silver pen I was talking about earlier. Just drawing all the tiny details which I was afraid to create with clay, and it works great. Another silver outline, and also for the knee and arm protection as well. And now I need some brown clay for the tattoo on his stomach, on his chest. And I even used the color to make the fur a bit darker, and also for his head. His bold head. And now we can glue the 2 swords into his fighting hands. Now let's also glue the flag to the flag holder. And put these 2 aside to work on Hawk. And he looks so cool, I would choose him as my Jarl. Yeah, in the game you are actually the Jarl. And the Jarl of your town, and it is your duty to develop your own different strategies for times of war, but also come up with diplomatic solutions during times of peace. And well, you have to do whatever it takes to ensure the prosperity of your army and also your town. Yeah. And this weapon can be pretty helpful. This is the bow. And you see what I mean. Well, all these golden parts, this would have been way too difficult to create from clay. So I think this is not a big problem that I painted so much afterwards. Even the fur looks way better with a little bit of white. And now we can glue the bow into his right hand, the arrow into the left. Just working on the chainmail. And of course, we have to make sure that he has plenty of arrows to shoot at his enemies. For example, the poor Slayer, who you will add in a minute to the scenery. Oh, poor guy. Yeah, I thought about sticking an arrow into his chest, but then I felt sorry and decided that it should fly past him. Yeah, as a creator, you play God. Guys, I guess that's it! What a huge tutorial! Please let me know what you think about this creation and write it down in the comments. Help support my channel for free, download Vikings War of Clans from my links in the description and get 200 gold and protection shield bonus. Join my Vikings clan, ClayClaimClan, under my nickname ClayClaim, of course. I guess that's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great weekend and take care, guys. Bye. Yeah, what happened to the flag? I think the clay is a bit too thin.